Hi, everyone. I am Jean Sachs. I'm the CEO of Living Beyond Breast Cancer and wishing everybody a happy new year. Joining me today is Cathy Nobil-Dutton. She is a clinical social worker and a certified personal trainer and health coach, which I just think is such a great combination. And she is also certified in cancer as a cancer exercise specialist. So Cathy's here with us to just talk a little bit about exercise and how to get started. And we know that often New Year's, we make a lot of resolutions. Some of them we keep, some of them we don't. But I think Cathy is going to help us really have some helpful tips about how to get started and how to stay motivated, particularly while we're still dealing with the global pandemic. So Cathy, welcome. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks. It's great to be here, Jean.
Great. So maybe we could start with you just telling us about your professional trajectory and how you made the decision to get this additional certification.
Sure. Well, I've been a mental health therapist, since I got out of graduate school. And in doing a lot of work with women over the years, a lot of whom discuss their body image and their issues about their weight, but they would talk about it on the couch, but not get up and actually go exercise. So at some point, I decided that I was going to get certified as a personal trainer so that we could, quote unquote, walk and talk. And so that I've been doing for 20 years. I developed my business. And then when I had cancer, after I had cancer, I really felt like I needed to shift into learning more about what the specific issues were for people who are recovering from cancer treatment and surgery, and making sure that I was on top of what those exercise concerns were. So that's how I came to that.
Well, that's great, because I think mental health and exercise are so tied together.
They sure are.
So for some people out there who might be diagnosed with breast cancer, whether recent or long ago, or dealing with metastatic, what kind of health benefits might you be looking for in terms of improving their health with exercise?
Well, there's two concerns. One is if you're going through treatment, if you've just been diagnosed and you're going to be dealing with treatment issues, that is the issues there are, and it's really important. Exercise has been actually now studied and proven to be really significant in warding off reoccurrence in a number of cancers, not just one, but like probably 8 or 9 cancers. And the other thing is that's really important, and it's also been studied, is that exercise during treatment actually helps people tolerate the treatment better and move. It's almost, I sort of visualize it as moving the medicine through your body and out, through your movement, and getting more air, just actually taking in more oxygen is really good for your cells. So when you're in treatment, those things are really significant. In terms of warding off recurrence, keeping up with an exercise routine is really important. And yeah.
Right. And when we're talking about exercise, are you looking for someone to be running a marathon? What does it look like?
Actually, and especially if you're going through treatment, I think that the really important thing is to go for low intensity. And rather than thinking about, and if you've been an exerciser prior to being diagnosed, some of us really tried hard to keep up with, thinking we're gonna not take not stop a beat, not take a breath. We're just gonna, if I ran 5 miles, I'm gonna continue to run 5 miles. And I think that for most people, that is a hard regimen to keep up, and not a great way to play around in your head with success and failure, because I used to walk 5 miles a day before I had my cancer. And when I was in treatment, I could see myself, it went down to 4, and then it went down to 3, and then it went down to 2. And then there were 2 weeks when I didn't do anything because I just couldn't. I needed to rest. My body needed to rest. So it's not a good mindset to try to put yourself through what your pre-cancer regimen was. So low intensity is really, really important. and finding things to do that are enjoyable. I mean, I would actually think when you're going through treatment and recovering, afterwards, that the most important thing is to think of your body as needing the movement. You need the movement. It's part of your healing process to move. And
Right.
that is how I would think about it, rather than, what exercise can I do that's most significant. I would say find something you enjoy doing that's not really, really intense, and move. Just make a commitment to moving and think of it as part of your recovery medicine.
Right. And I love the idea of when, walking does help the medicine run through your body. And you're right, there are studies, especially when you're in chemotherapy, that walking is helpful. So, are there any things that women should be mindful of if they have a history of breast cancer before they start exercising, particularly maybe if it wasn't part of their routine prior to being diagnosed?
Yes, I think, again, the issue of moderate intensity or low intensity is really important. The other thing is that, it's important to understand that chemo and radiation and surgery all impact on the body. So it's important to know that if you've had, surgery or radiation in this area, your movement is going to be restricted. And you need to not, I get concerned when doctors say, yeah, go back to the gym, do whatever you were doing, because you really can't do that without being mindful of what it means to, your pectoral muscles, to your back muscles, and if you're having reconstruction or you've had reconstruction, it's even more involved. But it's important that you do the exercises in a way that are not going to overstretch areas that may be tighter. Also, when you have radiation creates scar tissue. So does surgery. So both of those things are really important to know. How do you work with areas that have scar tissue? So you're not, again, scar tissue is tight and not very malleable. So what you want to do is you want to make sure when you stretch that you're not just forcing something to try to, stretch it open. You have to really work with the body. Right. And be kind.
Yeah. And someone with your background and your area of expertise would know that. But if someone is just going to their gym around the corner, I mean, what kind of advice should they get? I mean, I know right now in many places we're not even going into gyms, but
right.
What kind of consultation should they have? Even if they're starting yoga or anything that is involving those muscles.
Well, ideally, it would be great if they could have a consult with someone who has some training in cancer exercise. And there are a few organizations that people can look up to find a trainer. One is Cancer Exercise Training Institute, and you can go on their site and they will locate somebody that's been trained in your area. Same thing with the Pink Ribbon Foundation. They also are, that's specifically breast cancer. And it would be good even if you just go on and look at their websites and see what they're recommending and what they're saying before you go in. And you're a general trainer, and this is nothing bad about trainers, okay? A general trainer is not trained in this.
Right.
They're not. It's not part of our regular training. So it would be important to either find someone, at least for a consult, or look at the websites, but do a little bit of research before you go in and just go at it.
Great.
Obviously not at a gym right now, but at some point.
And we'll make sure we link those resources. So thank you. So what about motivation? I think that is often what trips people up. They start with good intentions and then other things take over. So what do you suggest?
I really ask people to look at, why does this really matter to you? Dig deep, because the resolutions in January, for most people, they last about 6 weeks. And that's the average. So what you really need to look at is, why am I doing this? Why is this really important to me? What's going to make me get up in the morning and put my clothes on to go out for a walk? And I should do it is not really a great reason. I mean, just that lasts about 6 weeks. And then people are like, yeah, but I don't really want to do it. So, but if you're really looking at making a commitment to my health, making a commitment to my taking care of my body in a new and different way. Those kinds of things run deeper and actually can really help people get up and get going. Motivation's a tricky thing, but I think if you don't go deep, it's harder to stick with it. Doesn't mean you can't, but it's harder to stick with it.
Right. And then what about trying to do some of these things with a friend? Is that helpful if
you can do it now? Yeah. Absolutely. If you want to do even a Zoom, like let's do it together. A lot of my clients now, my sessions are on Zoom. So I'm on the floor in my gym and they're on the floor in their house and we're doing it together. But that really helps people. So yes, and it helps to keep you, you're accountable to somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I know for some of us who live in colder climates, not everybody,
Mhm.
because we do reach a national audience,
Yeah.
that can be a really big barrier if, going outside just doesn't feel something they want to do. So what are some
Right.
things they can do in their homes? I mean, you already talked about Zoom classes. Yeah.
Right. But you can also do amazing stuff just walking around your house. I mean, if you decide that every hour, if you're, working, and mostly you're in front of a camera like we are, that if you decide every hour you're going to get up and you're going to do 2 laps around your living space, just walk, go up and down the steps a couple of times, move your body. That's what I mean. Think about it in terms of not running the marathon necessarily, but just being committed to moving. And, there's lots of body weight exercises you can do. I have people using peanut butter jars and soup cans and it's because people don't necessarily have great big living spaces where they can stretch out and set up mats and all that stuff. So, but it is possible to do lots of things in a chair and with cans and with your body weight and just getting up and moving. Your body doesn't care whether you're in a gym. Your body cares that you're moving.
That's a great point.
So,
and are you a fan of those Fitbits or activity trackers? Do you think that's something worth pursuing?
I think that if you're a person that likes to look at your stats, it's really helpful and motivating. Generally speaking, again, with those, most people after a few months stop looking at them. They use them, but they don't necessarily look at them. I think the thing that's great is that, especially if you're recovering, if you have a Fitbit, you can really track how you're improving, because when you're really dealing with treatment, you're not moving around so much, and you can really see like, oh, I only walked like 550 steps today. But then you look at yourself a few days later or a week later and say, oh, I would love doctors to use these, by the way, but because it's a great another way to self-report how well or not well you're actually doing. But so you can say, oh, wow, I got to 1,000 steps and I can see my improvement, and that is motivating, particularly when you're healing.
Right. Okay, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
So I know you gave some resources of where to find certified trainers. Are there any other resources that you want to share?
For regular trainers, the two best and most reputable organizations are the American Council on Exercise and the American College of Sports Medicine. Both of these organizations, when you read articles in the paper and they'll reference, exercise, a lot of them come out of the American College of Sports Medicine, and a lot of them come out of the American Council on Exercise. You can get certified as a trainer in the back of a magazine. So, and I really do caution people to make sure that they work with someone who has some solid training. So those two are really good certifying organizations.
Okay, great. And then any other online resources, if for simple exercises or places for people to look to just
not specifically.
Okay.
There's so many of them that American Cancer Society, a lot of the large organizations will have a little piece on exercise in their their drop down menus and stuff. So if that's not a bad place to go either. But really there's so much information that Live Strong is another one that's good in terms of exercise, but there's a lot of info out there.
Great. And if people want to take your class, is that possible online? Is there a way?
Yes, they can absolutely contact me. I don't do group classes. I'm not a good choreographer. So I'm not a good group class person, but I do individual stuff all the time. So yes, if somebody were interested or even interested in just talking about, like I said earlier, about getting a consult with someone about what's the best way to approach this, absolutely. I'm
Okay,
here.
great. And we'll make sure we link your contact information. Well, thank you so much, Cathy. I know we've heard sitting is the new smoking disease.
Yep.
A couple of doctors have shared. So it is really important. And you're right, it is just as simple as getting up and walking around
Yeah.
to start off with. So thank you. And I hope
Thank
this
you.
is helpful for everybody to get a little motivated, some simple steps. Remember, Living Beyond Breast Cancer is always available. We have closed Facebook pages. So if you want to be added, please go on to lbbc.org and we'd be happy to connect you, and continue to stay safe and stay in touch.